Hey guys, welcome back to Yeah Football. Today we have a lot to talk about because it's the first week back officially in the European campaign. So we're going to go over between some of the scores that we think, a bit of transfer news that's going on, and some little bit of other news that may be a little bit controversial. And then, the UEFA Super Cup is coming up, and then the La Liga Serie A is returning as well this week. So we're going to talk about all of that in just a few minutes. So first I want to start off with basically the Premier League. We started out a bit strong in the first game. It was on Friday. It was Crystal Palace versus Arsenal. It ended up being on Arsenal's favor, 2-0. Just like how Milad said in the beginning, it was in the last podcast, he predicted it correctly, and I think he knows it himself. So after that, we had a few other scores. I'm just going to talk about a little bit of them, and then we can discuss it. Fulham versus Liverpool, tied up 2-2. Tottenham versus Southampton, ran basically 4-1. Everton versus Chelsea, a 1-0, very close game to Chelsea's favor. Manchester United versus Brighton. Brighton basically on the board here with 2-1, so 3 points for them. West Ham versus City, no question about it. City won 2-0. So I want to go over a little bit first about how you thought of this. Milad, basically Crystal Palace to Arsenal 2-0. Very interesting game for you. You predicted it correctly. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all my sponsors, all my pundits, Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, Steve Nickel. Shout out to all my friends. Love you guys. Real punditry comes from the guys who actually watch the games. All right. I might not be able to tell you exactly what's going to happen with West Ham, but I can tell you what's going to happen with Arsenal because I watch the games. I'm not going to gloat too much in my victory. Even when I said 2-0, I think I was being a little bit optimistic. Just because I thought the team was ready. That's the biggest difference from this season to last season or previous seasons, is that I watched this Arsenal team throughout preseason, and I said, they're ready. Right. I told you last week, I said I could tell you the starting 11, and that was the starting 11. There was no doubt in anyone's mind what the starting 11 was going to be. From here on out, there might be a little bit of doubt because Kieran Tierney is coming back and Tomiyasu will come back. Smith Rowe, hopefully, when he gets healthy, will come back. And so then there might be mystery. But for that one game, you knew what was coming. And they played very well, in my opinion. The first 25 to 30 minutes, I think shout out to my friends, Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher, they basically said that the first 25 minutes they thought they were watching a City game. And so that's what Arsenal is striving to do. That's why they hired Mikel Arteta. They want to dominate the game. They want to play a City-like-esque game, positional play, the 2-3-5 formation, just suffocate the team in their half. That's what they did. But the difference is Arsenal's not as good as Manchester City. They don't have the same quality. They haven't been doing it as long. So it falters during games, especially against really solid competition. Like if Arsenal play Fulham at home, I expect them to dominate for 75 minutes and do what they did to Palace the first 20 minutes. But against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park, you can't do that. So that's why they fell off. But the key thing is they didn't give up a goal. Ramsdale was sturdy.
Big clean sheet.
Ben White, I think, Ramsdale made a few really good saves. Ben White, I think, did pretty well.
And you
very weird.
The man of the match in some sense.
I will get to him. I'm saving him. Ben White, very weird. He got a lot of hate on social media. People were saying he was not good, not doing well, which I found confusing because he number 1 in tackles, number 1 in interceptions, I was a little bit confused by that. But going up against Wilfried Zaha, he's one of the best 1v1 wingers in the country. So he did well there. And Gabriel Martinelli with the goal missed a very clear chance when Jesus was able to go through, but he was able to rebound, get that set piece goal. And then yes, the man that made his announcement, I did say last week, I believed he was the reason why we would get a clean sheet. Right. And he, not just him, the whole team did a good job. But wow, 3 years.
Said he was ready.
Arsenal fans have been waiting. He's ready. Yeah. And I think even if you see Mikel Arteta's post press conference, he kind of just laughed. He was like, yeah, he's ready. Like it's he's ready to go. I don't want to hype him too much. It's just one game, and he's only 21 years old, and he will make mistakes. I don't care how good he is. He will make mistakes. He has the presence.
Like anyone else.
He has the calmness, but he put forth a terrific performance at one of the toughest grounds to play at. One of the grounds that took the most points off the top 6 teams, including Liverpool and City, and put together a clean sheet. I think it's a great start for Arsenal, and now they have fixtures that will line up well for them. Take care of business. If you could beat Leicester at home, and then you have 2 newly promoted teams as well, one away and one at home, they can get off to a really solid start before they get to the meat of their schedule. And as long as they stay healthy, I think people are sleeping on this Arsenal team. Now, they might let me down, and they might lose to Fulham somehow. I don't really know how, but
Leicester at home. You're playing at home next game, correct? I think
yes. Leicester at home is usually a fixture they win. I can't remember the last time they've ever lost to Leicester at home. They have even in Leicester's title winning year, actually they beat Leicester away as well. But Leicester at home is usually a fixture where they do well because Leicester's not a team that sits back on them. Like Leicester will try to play. And when you try to play against Arsenal at the Emirates, but you're more of like a mid-table team, you kind of play in a lot of trouble. It's the teams that can sit back and counter and stuff. Or a team like Brighton, because Brighton, which I think we'll talk about them later, do really well playing. But this is Arsenal's chances to get off to a solid start. If they can get off to a solid start, we have Tottenham versus Chelsea this weekend. So one of those 2 teams will drop points. Just get off to a solid start. Handle your business. Overall, I mean, I think there's nothing else for me to say. They just handled their business, did a great job, and we'll see what they do from here on out.
Yeah, honestly, it looks like overall for the other London clubs, it really took off this weekend. You know, between Tottenham as well, winning 4-1 against Southampton, when at first it looked kind of weird for them, and then they just started like bouncing back on that part. Let's talk about more on the aspect of Chelsea and Everton, because I want to get to both Merseyside games. If we're talking about Everton for a second, it almost looked like Chelsea were definitely struggling to keep up with both. It was weird because it almost seemed like towards the end of the second half, it looked like Everton wanted to really push for a tie, and it almost seemed like it did. Overall, Chelsea did hold for the 1-0. It really shouldn't be that much of a struggle, but we did talk about last week how a lot of people seem to forget just because Everton are not doing their best, this isn't the brightest Chelsea either in the sense of what to do when they're up. It almost seems like they like struggling to keep their 3 points.
Yeah, I think when I initially started off talking about Arsenal, I said preseason. We saw Chelsea struggled in preseason, so I don't think it was a surprise the performance we saw from them.
Yeah.
And I would say they probably got pretty fortunate that they are coming up a team that also struggled in preseason and just overall has been struggling. So this game, when I was watching it, I kind of knew what was probably going. In a weird way, I still expected Chelsea to like win somehow, like 3-1 or 4-1 or something like that, just because it's Chelsea. And I think Everton have been so poor, but it was at Goodison Park. And you know that ground can give a lift, but I think we saw a lot of effort and a lot of passion from Everton. We saw Anthony Gordon with the new number 10 shirt. He played pretty well, put a lot of heart out there. But it's the lack of quality that squad has is quite
weird,
terrifying. No? It's terrifying. Like I look at that squad and it feels like a relegation squad. And we're talking about Everton Football Club. It's just scary. Like
it's almost like
it is. It's really unfortunate. They lost Richarlison. They lost DCL to a injury for like a month and a half, I think it is. So and that's been a huge issue for him the last few years. So they have no strikers. They're relying on this kid basically, and Anthony Gordon, to try to lead them through. And they just lost Godfrey to a fractured leg as well. So he's going to be out for 3 months. Maybe longer. I mean, it's a little bit of a scary situation, and that's why it was perfect for Chelsea to just because I think Thomas Tuchel knows. Have you like seen the social clips going around of him on like this touchline and everything going crazy? He knows that the team's not ready, They didn't play that great of a game. They got that 1-0 victory based off of a penalty. They didn't score an open goal. And they were struggling, which is why it was a good result for them. But unfortunately for them, it's not like, how Arsenal kind of have 3 fixtures that I think will be all right for them. Chelsea go to Tottenham. Or is it at
it's at Stamford Bridge. Yeah,
it's at Stamford. Okay, so they do play at Stamford Bridge, but they do play against Tottenham, and this is a very good Tottenham team under Antonio Conte, who is ready. They are in this. Arsenal and Tottenham are very similar boats. They're both ready for the season. So for the second game of the season to go against Tottenham, this is going to be a real test for Chelsea right here, because they also still don't have some of the signings I expect them to make. Mm-hmm. They don't have that yet, and they will not be ready for Tottenham. Could Cucurella start? It's either Chilwell or Cucurella. I don't think you go wrong with either one. So that's not really a problem position there. But for Chelsea, it's mainly, can you score? They couldn't score against Everton. They did not get one single open goal.
A struggling
against
part,
Everton. Yeah. So that's the problem. Can you score? And going up against Kane and Son, it's going to be interesting. It's going to take them a few weeks. They just have to right now for Chelsea, it doesn't matter how you play. Just get the points, get the results, and hopefully later on in in a month, it will start clicking. But for right now, you just got to find any way possible to get those results.
Right. If we look on the other side as well, when we go to now, let's talk about a little bit. Just skim really about the Fulham versus Liverpool game. Most people aren't really worried for Liverpool's end. A draw to Fulham is just one of those days that probably Liverpool looked like they were completely off. They looked like Liverpool looked like they were completely off, and they just weren't ready for the start of the season. It almost looked like they were still thinking this is a preseason game. You could even tell that the players were just on their own. It's almost like they were not giving it 100% as you would see normally Liverpool would. Klopp, obviously, sometimes he leads with these moments as more of a way to express his frustration into some type of, the pitch is bad, or it's, they didn't clean up, or the weather or some sort. And, you can rely on those things. I don't really care for those types of interviews. I don't really watch for those things. It doesn't matter what the manager says and that kind of thing, because they'll always be frustrated when you end a match where you think you should definitely win, especially from a side like them. So to come off in a 2-2, it must be really frustrating, because you almost feel like you gave up on 3 easy first points for the first part of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I never pay attention to what the managers truly. I mean, sometimes the managers do speak the truth, but the best managers never speak the truth. Like when Klopp says that stuff, he's just trying to take attention off the team. That's what all great managers do. We all know that. It's what Pep does all the time. It's what Klopp does. Yeah, they're just trying to they're trying to get the media to focus on them, so they don't focus on the team, so the team can just focus on what they got to do. And so the team, they didn't. I mean, listen, Virgil van Dijk's been the best center back in the world for a few years now, and he had probably one of the worst games I've seen him play. So that kind of just puts it together. It was just I think an off day for them.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it happens. It can happen to the best of everyone. I'm a little bit more worried that we just learned that Thiago is going to be out with a hamstring injury for approximately 6 weeks. That's a problem, because you have then Naby Keita, who's not the most reliable of midfielders. Then you have Hendo, who's nothing like Thiago. So that's, the creative hub of your midfield, and Thiago getting hurt is not ideal. That worries me more than the actual result. And it could possibly lead into Liverpool going into the transfer market, maybe, still with a few weeks left. So just keep an eye on that. But yeah, I think, give it a few games. This is, to me, not much to freak out about. I think they still have to get used to a few things. Darwin Núñez still has to get used to the team. He did score, which is a good sign, but once he starts, I think, starting games, because I think he is the better player than Roberto Firmino, and he will fit the system a little bit better if he has Diaz and Salah on both sides.
Right.
But missing Sadio Mane
next week against Crystal Palace. So we'll probably see.
Yeah. So Crystal Palace, are they at Selhurst Park?
They're at Anfield. They play at Anfield next Monday.
Okay. So, the first game at Anfield, they should get a result there. Sadio Mane not being there, I think we saw it's going to take some adjusting. We all love. He's the best player in the world. I'm being serious. I'm being serious, Chris.
We have to see
He's
how
the best player in the world.
How the team changes. Yeah.
The team's going to take some time to adapt, to get used to that. Virgil will get back to being the best center back in the world. Not too worried about that. And so they should get back on track. But when you're going up against Manchester City, you can't afford. Like, this is the standard they have set. Both teams that they've set for each other is that you simply can't drop points.
Right. Every
Anytime
point matters
you drop
in the
points,
entire campaign.
Because these teams will hit 90-plus points, which is ridiculous. Like, it just makes no sense how you can constantly reach 90-plus points, get close to 100 points every year without stop. These teams it's a different standard. So if you want to win the title, which is what Liverpool wants to do, not the best of starts, and it puts a little bit of pressure for the remaining, not for the season, just the next few games, because you don't want to drop more points, because you don't really see how City will drop points.
Let's move over to an actually struggling side. We did kind of predict some of this, even though we didn't really predict what the score. A struggling side like Manchester United against Brighton, to lose at home, 2-1. It was quite the result. You could see everybody being super frustrated. Ronaldo obviously not starting. He was on the bench. This side is just exactly what we keep talking about. Podcast after podcast, it could be someone else, and we could all say the same thing. And the players are in the same boat, and it could be a new manager, but same United. It doesn't change really. Malad, you could even say something else, and you'll tell me it's just the same thing. What else is there to say? We just keep looking at it, and this is just in shambles. It's upsetting, really, because
we did a whole podcast.
We did a whole podcast. Yeah.
It makes for great content. I've watched a lot of content from a lot of people, and you can kind of see the realization. They're starting to realize it, because I saw this with Arsenal, where you just stop getting mad, and you kind of just get humbled, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to see with those very popular United characters, like in the fan media, and of course, all the punditry in England. It's a lot of United fans.
Right.
Or previous United players.
Yeah.
Gary Neville literally sits on the podcast now, and he's like, I got no comment. Like, he is starting to run out of gas, and what to say. Because this is, I have said it's bad. I have said it's going to take many years, but when you really look into it at this Manchester United situation, because we can't talk about the manager. It has nothing to do with managers. Nothing. Eric Ten Hag, Alex Ferguson, Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, it doesn't matter. The manager at this current moment is not set up for success due to what is surrounded by him at the club. And now with hindsight, we can look at the previous managers, Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho. We can look at the previous managers who did speak up that little bit, gave little bits of hints. And now we can understand, this has been going on for a while.
Exactly, 100%.
And this has been going on for a very long time, and now it's starting to show. And they don't have the personnel at the top of, the ownership. We got to talk about the Glazers. They leveraged the club, which you can't even do anymore. You cannot buy a club via leveraging it on debt. That's how they got Manchester United. They never paid a penny for it. That debt is still there, and they still take dividends out of the club. So do they really want to see Manchester United succeed? It starts there, and it is getting to the point where I think that's where you have to look at. You really just got to look at the owners. I don't know what else you can do, because currently the season just started. And people, for the players, there's not enough new signings. Will they make more signings? No, because Frankie de Jong is not showing up. Now they're being linked to Arnautovic, a 33-year-old striker that wasn't.
Let me give you an insight for a second. In a month span, you play 2 of the top 5. You play Liverpool in 2 weeks. You play them on the 22nd of August on a Monday at home. And then later you play again in September, so 4th of September, at home against Arsenal. we
The Arsenal one's winnable. I mean, they beat Arsenal a lot at Old Trafford. But...
We say in the spans, but okay, those are big teams, right? We have Brentford versus United coming up next.
That's the one I'm worried about.
That's right, and then you have later Leicester versus United. All these things. Crystal Palace versus United. You have no idea. It's like a flip a coin. I give you a coin, you could flip a heads or tails. Tomorrow it could be a 2-1. The next day it could be 1-0. Win or lose, right? It gives you hope. Let's say hypothetically, United win at home to a 1-0 penalty or whatever. You think, okay, well, we didn't play great, but hopefully we can play next week well. We lose 3-0. And it keeps rolling on like that. Why does this side become like that? It's a joke. It's apparent. That's what it is.
It's so much deeper than. I mean, the squad isn't good enough. We can all say that. Obviously. We know that. But I mean, they've had McFred in the starting midfield for 4 years. Like we know that. Okay, so you have to look a little bit higher than that. And we can all talk about those issues. We all know what the issues are. Will it change? No. I don't know. It's when we're talking about billionaires. It's like I don't know. It's a different world. So, do they really care? We have no idea. So we look at what's actually going to happen. You said it. We got Brentford, we got Liverpool, we have Arsenal coming up, we have Crystal Palace coming up. And confidently, the only teams I think Manchester United could beat right now is like Bournemouth and maybe Fulham, even though Fulham just drew with Liverpool. And also maybe Southampton, Nottingham. Yeah. But as soon as you tell me Brighton, Wolves, Leicester, Brentford, I'm like, And that's how have we gotten to that point where they don't even have injuries? We're not talking about a squad that's riddled with injuries. We're not talking about a squad that's riddled with COVID. This is the squad. This is it. And we're talking about we don't even know if they could be. It's bad. It's very bad. And they can easily lose at Brentford.
Yeah.
Then you can easily write it in right now because Liverpool already dropped points in the first game of the season. They ain't dropping points against Manchester United. If Manchester United lose to Brentford and Liverpool have to carry on, okay, same situation as Arsenal last season. You lose your first 3 games. You got to figure out how to bounce back. But Arsenal made signings. They signed Odegaard. They signed Tomiyasu. They got their players back from COVID. They changed the goalkeeper. Will Manchester United do that? Because there's still 3 weeks to figure this out.
Who knows, man?
That's the thing. The owners have to come in and, for the love of God, give up on the Frankie De Jong deal because that's not happening. Just please stop because he doesn't want to play the club.
Yeah, Rabiot,
you guys got to find some. Why?
Why? But
you need character in your team, and you're getting. Oh no! I pray to God that Again, I'm not a United fan. I sound like I'm a United fan. I'm in crisis.
I think we're just passionate that we just want the club to do well. It's a big club.
It's a football. It's the biggest club in England. How is this happening? This cannot be happening. It cannot be happening. What is happening to that club? I'm telling you right now, there is a situation right now. I can see Manchester United finishing below 11th. I can see it. We will do our predictions at the end of the window. And when I get the clear view of what that squad's going to be like at the end of the window, I can easily predict them in double digits.
Oh, man.
Easily. Because I can see Brighton being above them. I can see West Ham being above them. I could see Newcastle being above them. Take those 3 teams plus the top 5 that already puts Manchester United in what? 9th? I haven't even thrown in Leicester. I haven't even thrown in Wolves. I haven't thrown in some. Have I missed anyone? Leicester. No, I don't. 9th to 10th. I could see them finishing 9th to 10th.
Okay. What Newcastle?
Yeah, 9th because I have Newcastle, West Ham 6, Newcastle 7. I'm not predicting that's where they're going to finish. I'm just trying to pick the top 5.
Villa.
West Ham, Newcastle, Brighton. So that's 8, and then that puts Manchester United with that Leicester kind of group, in 9th and 10th. I could see them finishing there. And for a club like Manchester United, that is unacceptable in every way imaginable. And then you get into this issue of, do we fire the manager again? How Erik ten Hag has, everywhere he's gone, from the beginning in Holland to the Netherlands, all the way to the biggest club in the Netherlands, he has taken clubs who were in down times and gotten them to reach their target, whether it's get back in Europa, get promoted to the main division, get champions of the Netherlands, and then compete in the Champions League. He's done it all.
Right.
So this manager should be qualified enough to take Manchester United where he needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
So if what I am scared might happen, because I don't know if they will make the signings by the time this window ends, and they end up finishing not even within touching distance of the top 5 or 6 in the table, and then everyone looks at Ten Hag like, oh, he's supposed to be making Rashford better. Rashford's been awful for 24 months. What do you want him to do?
But the preseason,
there's a certain point.
The preseason, Malad, that was the preseason.
Christ, I'm getting. I'm getting my
don't worry. We're moving on because honestly, we could talk about it all day. We'll keep always talking about it. We'll hopefully see. By the time the transfer window actually ends, there'll be 4 games in, so we can actually see how time has developed, where they are. Well, we'll talk about it week by week anyway. So we're not really going to talk about West Ham versus City. This is basically your City win. And Haaland, obviously, just because he didn't score in the
quest to the Golden Boot.
It's what we talked about last time. Community Shield, you played okay. It's just one game, honestly. When you're such a big player, that's it. So we're not really talking about these things. We're going to move on to the other leagues because sake of time and stuff like that. We get to the other stuff. So let's go a little bit to Germany. We'll go to the Bundesliga, talk about a little bit of the few big games. I'm only going to really talk about one and then talk about the scores later afterwards. I want to talk about Frankfurt versus Bayern. It's just typical Bayern game, really. They really are not forgiving, to be honest with you. 1-6. It's absolutely ridiculous. I want to shout out real quick before anything else to the Frankfurt fans that is something that I despise seeing in England. When I watch Premiership games and you pay that much, and it could be the seasonal fans or whatever, it doesn't matter. Throughout the season, you leave. You absolutely leave. You leave even 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes before because you're getting absolutely destroyed. A true fanship is something like this. When you stayed at opening day, 1-6, you're getting absolutely destroyed. Even from the first half, you were 4-0, I think. Wow, it's just ridiculous. The support of Frankfurt fans is always a pleasure to watch the stadium, and I just wanted to shout that out real quick. But yeah, man, 1-6, nothing to say more than just Bayern Munich, really.
Yeah, nothing to say. I think that that's the one thing I don't like about England is the fans. I think they could be a lot better. I mean, I think the best fan base in England for that type of stuff is maybe Newcastle because they've been through the depths of hell and they kind of know. So like every time you see that ground, they're always they're rocking now because they have hope. But even before that, when they were getting battered and had no hope, they still stayed. So yeah, but the majority of English fans, they're not like that. So yeah, I mean, what else is there? I mean, this team, we know what this team's capable of. It's all about consistency with them. I think we both said don't sign a striker,
right? Robert or no Robert,
because it makes sense when you can start guys like Serge Gnabry and Sadio Mane. And, shout out Musiala. Yeah, I mean that boy is young and he's showing very good.
So well.
Yeah. Thomas Mueller's still kicking as well. So yeah. I think they should easily go this season without the striker. They should be able to win the Bundesliga.
Do it again.
And I think, one advantage they might have in the Champions League is that when you did come up against Bayern and you knew they had Lewandowski, there was a certain way you could play against them because you knew Lewandowski, like you knew what he was, the true proper number 9.
Right.
This is a completely different Bayern team. When you throw Serge Gnabry and Sadio Mane and Leroy Sané and Musiala and Kimmich and Müller, and you can throw out so many different formations, different tactics. And it's different. Like there's no like history book to go off of when you look at Bayern to think of this stuff. And you have a mind like Julian Nagelsmann as well. Keep an eye on Bayern. They could sleep their way through to a Champions League final.
We'll have to see. Real quick, the other scores. Ones that I just want to shout out real quick. Dortmund pick up a win against Bayern Leverkusen. Tough match, but they could have almost scored 2-0. One got nulled out. So, yeah, 1-0 win victory at home to Dortmund. Cologne and Schalke, that was 3-1. So, nothing really to say much of those overall. Good start to the season in the Bundesliga. Well, I want to bring in some more things about the other leagues as we go, but I just want to run some of the score lines, to be honest with you. In Ligue 1, we had Lyon versus, I think the pronunciation is AC Chico. I think it's something like that. 2-1. That was your boy Lacazette. Now he's in Lyon, but, you return back. You return back usually where you feel comfortable with, and, you do well. So 2 goals for him. I just wanted to shout that out. Then we move over to PSG. Just a ridiculous 5-0. Just gave him the whole hand, really. A ridiculous goal by Messi, which is an overhead kick. You could even say somewhat of a bicycle, but I just more of a call it a scissors, consider if it's not like fully done. But yeah, it's so creative, to be honest, with the Paris team. Hopefully they can keep it up in the international competitions when we get there later.
If Neymar just plays like that, that's the key. It's not Messi and it's not Mbappe. It's just Neymar.
We'll have to
because
see.
We know Messi and Mbappe are going to turn up.
Right.
If Neymar can do what he does, like in all these other games that we know he's capable of, it's like the story of his career. He could be the best footballer in the planet if he wanted to.
Yeah.
It's just consistency. That's it.
We'll have to see as well. I also want to see how now Mbappe integrates into this part of this new PSG format when we get there. And then Marseille 4-1 to Rams. So overall,
Nuno Tavares.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well.
Let's go, Nuno.
So overall, some ex or on loan Arsenal players across the Ligue 1 teams just doing their own thing as well.
Shout out Get Football French News on Twitter for saying who needs William Saliba when you have Nuno Tavares. I love the salt. I love it. Thank you.
Well, you took away one of the best center backs of the league and then just put into
mine. He's been mine.
Well, we'll have to see how Marseille cope without him. Hopefully they can still stay up. I'm going to move over to now a little bit some of the transfers that have gone through this week other than just score lines. We're going to run through these. You tell me which one you want to talk about. I picked some out. Okay. Sevilla has now picked up Isco, or is picking up Isco. So that way, after his move is finally done from Real Madrid, which almost seemed like somewhat of a prison towards the last end of these few years. It almost seemed like he was not necessary on the team anymore. So hopefully that's a good move for him. Marseille also thinking of picking up Alexis Sanchez after he terminated his contract with Inter. I think it was today, so should be signing soon. Timo Werner back to where he feels like he could probably find goals. Leipzig. So 20 million euros with plus add-ons. So hopefully he can find the net multiple times in the Bundesliga again.
You just said Lacazette comfortable in Lyon.
Yeah.
Maybe Timo Werner comfortable at Leipzig.
Exactly. So. I feel like sometimes you make the moves because you want to try them out, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. Lukaku. What are you going to do? Marcos Alonso move to Barcelona hopefully soon, possibly. It could be done this week, maybe. A weird transfer. We've talked about before how this team just picks up things because, first off, how they get these things. We'll get to Barcelona overall in a second soon.
I did say they needed cover for Jordi Alba. So.
Yeah, so you finally have something there. If he does sign this week, hopefully he can start in La Liga, and we'll see how that rolls out. Or start on the bench probably, sub in. We'll see how it rolls out there. Malang Sarr joining Monaco, so his end to Chelsea is basically done. Such a short career at Chelsea, really. Almost, it's kind of depressing. But what are you going to do? I mean, when you join Chelsea, it's like a 50-50.
You got to make it. Yeah, you got to make it or you go.
Then you have Dortmund picking up a replacement. Unfortunately, since Haller is now going through his situation, you have Anthony Martinez joining as his potential now replacement for the team. And hopefully he does well. We'll have to see how he does. Since Dortmund is up with 3 points, we can see how it goes throughout the weeks, and we can probably talk about him if he does well or if he doesn't. So one thing I really want to key on, since we're going to talk about Barcelona soon again, after talking about it in the original Barcelona Take podcast, this shows that there's rumors I don't really like talking about just open-end rumors because I don't really believe on them. But when it gets talked about this a lot, when I address something, Barcelona has recently gotten a lot of players because they want to try to rebuild and stuff so that way they can test again. And where they get the money is kind of complicated. So I want to talk about how their striker situation right now with Depay and Aubameyang. Now rumors are that basically one of them will leave, right? Whether it be Memphis Depay or Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. How do you feel about how one of them just coming in and from winter and then just now have to depart immediately because the club is like, okay, well, we can't just have you both all three of you. Well, if you're counting Robert on the team, so one of you have to now depart to somewhere else immediately because that way we can register other players.
Yeah, this is getting. I thought when Laporte came in, this would stop, but it seems to be getting worse. And I want to make I'm thinking about the long-term future of the club. I'm not thinking about what can this person do this season for my club. So when they signed Aubameyang back in January, I understood it was, because he got basically banned from Arsenal and you could easily get him.
Right.
And at that time, Barcelona was really struggling on financials. So I get it. And they set up the contract in a way where you don't really get a lot of wages. But then after a certain point, once I think the start of next season, or it might be even this season, his salaries go back to what he was earning at Arsenal, which is $350,000 a week.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole idea of but then again, 6 months later, you sign Lewandowski. You also sign Rafinha. You also re-signed Dembele. And then you're trying to put a bunch of levers and everything. And my whole thing was, I looked at Real Madrid and I looked at what they did over the years when they were just saving that money because they spent by Galactico, and then they kind of realize, it doesn't really work. Can't keep doing this. Yeah. And so they just don't buy anyone for a few years. They don't buy anyone of expense. They kind of focus on the young market, get Vinicius Jr., look how well that worked out right now. And they kind of focus on that. And Barcelona are just completely different. They're just going and trying to essentially boost their short term as high as possible because they think that if they make, they can make the money back by winning Champions League and, doing all this stuff. And personally, I think they think that a Super League's coming soon to where none of this really will matter in 5 or 10 years' time, that they're in debt or they're struggling in finances because boom, Super League comes in and we all start making a lot more money. If that is what they're banking on, it's just too dangerous. They've gotten to the point where they lost their best player of all time, and now they're in the same situation a year later where you don't even know if you could register players. Why do we keep putting the club in this situation where you are just leveraging debt and worry and doubt on the club, and even just treating the players we don't even know what's going behind the scenes with the Frankie De Jong situation? How much of a pay cut is Piqué taking? How much of a pay cut is Sergio Busquets or Jordi Alba, these longtime servants of the club? What are they doing? This is not healthy. This is not a healthy way to run your football club. That's my biggest worry. I don't care about who they sign, the name of the sign, or the money that they're signing. It's the number of the signings, the situation that you're in before you make the decision to go for these signings. That's what worries me. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, and it's just continuing. And I'll let you explain the rumors. But if those rumors are true, then this is really dangerous situation we're heading into.
We're talking about, for instance, you just mentioned De Jong, and having that aspect, considering if there is the other rumor, right, that I was going to mention, that because of the previous administration giving him, Frankie De Jong, the deal that he was given, where it could seem there was illegal actions taken on it, so that way his wage is what it is and what is happening between player and club. it could give a lot of problems, not just to the credibility of the club, where you also could damage the credibility of the player. And there's almost unnecessary things that are happening because of the amount of unnecessary buys that one makes. For instance, the other rumor that we were going to talk about is this accusation basically developing where Barcelona basically are contributing the 150 million euros of their own money towards the sale of the 25% of their TV rights to the U.S. investment group, which was made with Sixth Street. So you have basically all that. With the club's rights, we'll have to see if the deal keeps going, or if it's true, right? Where just basically it sells off their own assets to raise money, which would be the sale of 25%, and the TV rights for the next 25 years. So it'll be like 500 million euros. So, which is not like how Barcelona exactly have said, which it was around 667 million euros to be worth, and with additional 150 million expected to arrive in 25 years. Basically, the point is that they're getting accused of these kind of things so that they're putting their own money so that way they can supposedly make money later. But the club, where is this getting this money? And you're just putting stuff on loan, basically, how Mulata is saying. So
they're basically trying to do an accounting trick. They're trying to put 150 of their own money in there, but it's not really there. And I guess accounting experts, you can trick your way into anything. But yeah, if this is true, then essentially, like, based off La Liga tax, or not La Liga, but like Spain taxes and stuff, you just have to spend an extra 35 million of something, and because if they get caught with it, like, and all this nonsense, it's just what. If you are a football club, why are you trying all these? Like, if this is true, why are you trying these accounting tricks? Like, what? Like, can't you just accept that the previous regime kind of put you in a really bad situation, and you should just chill a little bit, focus on your young players, focus on your beautiful academy, La Masia. Like, just relax a second, come out, tell your fans what the situation is. Just tell them, listen, this is the financial situation. Don't expect us to do much in the market. Expect us to build from within for a little bit of time. Please support us. Please support the team. And the fans will get behind that. But no, we're just going to go ahead and leverage the club. Okay. Like, I can't understand. So sometimes, no matter how desperately you want to win and succeed and live up to what Barcelona is, sometimes you get dealt a bad hand.
Yeah.
Sometimes that just happens. And Laporte and the club got dealt a bad hand from Bartomeu's nonsense. But you can't just take that bad hand and look around the poker table and say, yeah, I'm gonna raise 500. Let's go. Like, why? You know you have a bad hand. Why are you doing that? You just check, relax.
You're gambling the club.
See if it comes back around. What they are doing, it might, at the end of the day, it might work out for them. They could win the Champions League this season. Hurrah! But I would never, if Arsenal ever did this, I would be extremely uncomfortable and very vocal about it. And so I can't imagine what the supporters of Barca are feeling like right now. They're talking about wanting to sign Leo Messi next season, and I would love that. I want Messi to go back to Barca. But do you guys have the finances to do that? Because right now, we can't register Lewandowski, we can't register Rafinha, we can't register Jules Koundé, we can't register Dembele, who acts like a new signing because his contract ran out. So yeah, we got a lot of things to worry about. What's going to happen here? I don't know. This is Manchester United and Barcelona are the gifts that keep on giving in different ways.
It's really in such a complicated aspect to like look at because you don't know what's going to happen. You can't even really predict because they're unpredictable in their own ways. One financially,
it's things that we're not experts with. All this accounting and financial hoopla, the tricks, the legality that the lawyers that are trying to figure this all out. How can you cheat your way into getting this and that and this? We're not experts of that, and that's all going to stay hidden behind the scenes and whatever the heck is going on behind the scenes. And the
average fan doesn't look at these kind of numbers. It just looks more in the sense of, oh, we got Robert. Yes, let's go. We got Robert Lewandowski. We re-signed them, and this, the money aspect is only looked at when like you really look into the finances of a club. and we keep going in the legality of it and logistics to see what else is occurring with contracts to given the players, who's taking pay cuts, who all this stuff what we just said. We're gonna have to see how it unfolds, but we're gonna talk about it later. Hopefully, it does work out. We have no idea what's gonna happen. Their first game is against Real Vallecano on Saturday, so we'll have to see who gets able to play. Even let's move over to on Wednesday. We have the Super Cup for the UEFA Super Cup. The Champions League winner plays the Europa League winner, Real Madrid versus Frankfurt. So Real Madrid haven't played an official game yet. Frankfurt has 2 of them, I believe. I don't know if it's 2 of them or 1. No, sorry, I apologize. I think it's just 1. What do we expect? Do we expect a comfortable Real Madrid win? Do we expect a little bit of a struggle? What are you thinking?
They haven't played much, so I don't know. I really like the way this Real Madrid team's shaping up. Yeah, the age is going to come eventually, on Benzema and on Modric, and we know on Cruz, and that's going to stuff happen. But they've prepared for it. Just like a different side of the spectrum compared to their rivals. I feel like they've prepared well, invested well. They know what's going to happen soon and how they can come back from that. Very deep team, very solid team.
Mm-hmm.
A team that, even without those preseason games, there's no real changes. They brought in Tusha. How do you pronounce his name? Tushamini. It's a tough French name for me to pronounce, but yeah. He's already looking very stellar. And so as long as everything clicks, the one player I'm looking at Madrid actually, because he is getting some chances, is Hazard. It's just fascinating to me because he's been, basically awful. That was like the last of Madrid's like stupid Galactico buys. Was Eden Hazard, and so I want to see how that goes, and if he's able to do well this season. I don't see Frankfurt being able to, go up against Madrid. So okay. I don't know like a score, but comfortably I would go Madrid.
I'll give it a 3-1. That'll be my score. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Real Madrid doesn't really struggle in these type of games. Internationally, Real Madrid are Real Madrid, so they should be fairly comfortable playing these kind of tournaments. They have before, the senior players have, so this is nothing new to them. It's more of a good luck to Frankfurt. Maybe they can pull out something out of the hat. We'll have to see. Moving on to the debut for La Liga and Serie A. Big games coming up. We'll have to see now. What are you thinking from Serie A side? Do you think Mourinho's side is coming up with Roma? He looks like he's developing something there. The fans are 100% backing him. It almost looks stable now. Hopefully for him, Milan and Internazionale are looking like big boys, like how they have it in the past decade. Really, they're looking pretty sharp now, and Juventus can hopefully rise back slowly. It looks kind of weird on them because they're in a uncomfortable position. I feel most of the preseason even looked that way as well. So maybe they can figure out what they want to do. Same with Napoli, similar position as Juventus. What are you thinking overall? What's your biggest thing that you're looking at into the Serie A this season?
I think just like last season, this is going to be the most competitive league. Even more competitive because I think Juventus is going to be better. So I think we're going to have and then Roma. Roma, they can finish 5th or they can finish 1st. It's kind of crazy because when you get the magic that comes with, and there's nothing more I'd love to see this season in European football than the magic of Mourinho coming back, the magic of Porto Mourinho and Inter Mourinho, to then do it at Roma a decade later. The confidence is flowing through the city. My only worry is, do they have enough quality to carry them through an entire season? I don't think so. Compared to just the Serie A is very top heavy right now. When you look at AC Milan, and you look at Inter, and you look at Napoli, and you look at Juventus, I don't think they can do it, but they are, in my opinion, have entered the conversation. So that in a way is a success in its own. Them along, I think not even the Serie A, I think they will know quite quickly if they can win it. And if they can't, I think they should actually really focus heavily on Europa because they can beat Manchester United. We know that. We have to see what teams drop out of Champions